Further, for the more effective detection of aliens who are physically, mentally, and morally undesirable, and who are already enumerated in our list of classes excluded by existing law, we should put immigrant inspectors and our own surgeons on board of all immigrant-carrying vessels. These officials, mingling with the immigrants on the voyage over, should see that they are properly treated and cared for, that they are not overcrowded, and that they receive adequate medical attention. But, of far greater importance than that, these officials would be able to detect a great many cases of physical and of mental defect which we could not possibly detect in our necessarily hurried examination when these people land, and in this way we should be able to exclude, and to send back far larger numbers of undesirable aliens than is at present possible, however strictly we may try to enforce the law. In addition to these steps which we should take, and take instantly, to accomplish the more effective exclusion of the insane, the imbecile, the idiot, the tuberculous, and those afflicted with loathsome or dangerous contagious diseases, we ought to amend our laws, so that it will be possible to exclude more aliens of such low vitality and poor physique, that they are eugenically undesirable for parenthood. The law of 1907 excludes persons who are found to be and are certified by examining surgeon as being mental or physical defect, being of a nature which may affect the ability of such alien to earn a living. This clause has been found to be rather ineffective, partly because it has been taken to be an economic test, and not a physical one, partly because of other provisions in the same Act which largely nullify this section, by making it possible to admit on bonds aliens who fall into the group here named. Now aliens of such low vitality, poor physique, or suffering from such mental or physical defect, that their ability to earn a living is thereby interfered with are, in the majority of cases, highly undesirable persons. They are not only themselves weaklings and unlikely to resist disease, but they are likely to have defective and degenerate children. Bonds will not prevent them from breeding. We constantly speak of the need of more hands to do our labor. We forget that we are importing, not hands alone, but bodies, also. The vast majority of incoming alien immigrants are potential fathers and mothers, and the character of the race that is to be born depends upon the kind of alien bodies which we are allowing to have landed on our shores day by day. It is a tremendous responsibility which rests upon us. Conservation of all natural resources, how much we hear about that. Conservation of American forests is important. So is conservation of American coal, and oil, and natural gas, and water supply, and fisheries. But the conservation and improvement of the American race is vastly more important than all other conservation. The real wealth of a nation is quality of its people. Of what value are endless acres of forests, millions of tons of coal, and billions of gallons of water, if the race is not virile, and sane, and sound? Fearfully misguided has been most of our so-called philanthropy. We have housed and clothed, and fed the defective, the degenerate, the delinquent, to such an extent that we have encouraged them to reproduce their kind in ever-growing numbers. We have spent increasing sums for asylums, almshouses, prisons, and hospitals, in which we have temporarily confined the insane, the pauper, the habitual criminal, the imbecile, leaving them free, during most of their lives, to propagate their kind. It is a fact, disguise it as we will, that we have taxed ourselves to support institutions which have resulted in increasing, and not decreasing, the number of the unfit. We have before us an immediate duty of tremendous importance in caring for our own unfit, in seeing to it, by adequate legislation, that the insane, the habitual criminal, the feeble-minded, and similar classes are permanently segregated, so that they cannot reproduce their kind, to be a further burden upon the nation, and in enacting laws which shall prevent the marriage of those whose offspring will be unfit. But, in addition to our own very heavy burden of those who are defective or degenerate, we are adding every year, by immigration, many hundreds if not thousands of aliens, whose presence here will inevitably result, because of their own defects or those of their offspring, in lowering the physical and mental, and moral standards of the American race. Biologists admit that they have much to learn about heredity, but of some things we are already sure. Enough is known to make it absolutely essential, if the quality of the American race is to be preserved, that there should be a far more careful selection of our incoming alien immigrants, on eugenic grounds, than we have ever attempted. The need is imperative for applying eugenic principles in much of our legislation. But the greatest, the most logical, the most effective step that we can take is to begin with a proper eugenic selection of the incoming alien millions. If we, in our generation, take these steps, we shall earn the gratitude of millions of those who will come after us, for we shall have begun the real conservation of the American race.